Hey guys, welcome back to the INSITE channel, and today we have SprayxD in the crosshair. The Israeli coach has spent most of his time in NA with ATK. You guys made Pro League, the RMRs, a lot of success there. But now you'll be looking to build a new team with NIP and their academy team, Young Ninjas, a super exciting project that we will be talking about later. But firstly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Had a really chill day today, which is good after a hectic couple of months. But I mean, overall, I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, good. Same. Oh, lovely. Had a lovely lunch. You know what? Can't complain whatsoever. But I want to talk about your coaching career first and kind of like your build up into NIP. So actually, how did you first get into coaching? And I'm like, it's quite hard to see because it's from a long time ago and from the Israeli scene. But like, where did you begin and why did you want to get into coaching?
Um, Honestly, it was a mistake that I got into coaching, which is the funny part.
What?
Yeah, I mean, it was a mistake. So there was like back in the day, I mean, it
Hmm.
was everywhere in the world, right? It was like duos that you played with, like always like some two people like sticking together, always playing like Shocks and Smiths, like all those guys. They,
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
all together. So it was me and another Israeli guy, right? And we were always together, and we went to lands together, and we were like a duo. It was like when we were kids, right? 16 years old. And I was always like that IGL type of like persona in the team, right? Like I was calling, I was leading, and everything like that. And he got called up to one of the best teams in Israel, EXDT at the time,
Hmm.
and there was no space for me. But he wanted me to join and help. So I said, "Look, I have to go for this. You're my friend, I know, but I have to go for this because it was like a big leap." And then he said that generally, like, no space for you. Let me talk to the IGL that's in charge, right? The IGL who was in charge, his name was Lidan, and he said, "Come try and coach. Who knows? Maybe it's something that you can do. I mean, you're a smart guy. Maybe something you can do. If you don't like it, you can go. If you like it, sure, stay." Um, Me and him worked a lot at the beginning. Like he helped me understand a bit more. And we slowly like started working, and slowly like I started bringing my own stuff in, right? Like as a coach, you have your own responsibility. And slowly I started like understanding the role and getting to know everything. And then a little time after that, I got offered from LPSP, the Danish team. I talked to SMF back in the day. We practiced a lot against them, so I went to them. Then I had some trials with like teams like Uranix, for example, like back in the day when they were obviously with Faven and all those guys, right?
Hmm.
Um, then landed in Vex. No, it was Korea first. I'm pretty sure for me. I might be mixing it up, but I think it was Korea, the Israeli team, that we reached some close qualifiers back in the day, which was an achievement for an Israeli team, right? Um, Back in the day, right? Talking about like
Yeah, yeah.
2018 or something. And then I went to Vext, and I had like a 2 year stint with Vext. Um, and yeah, that's like it basically like snowballed. After that, I linked up with the Bravado guys, then ATK, then Cloud9, right? JT and all, and TC basically. I messaged TC. I came forward. He said, sure. Started being an analyst, assistant coach. And after they got bought up by Cloud9, ATK has offered me a full-time coaching position as the head
Hmm.
coach. And yeah, the rest is history, right? You can
Yeah.
basically see that on the higher level.
Yeah, because it was like there was like almost it was like question marks. It was like where did you begin? And so like was the aim to become a pro player then? Was that always something that you wanted to do in esports?
Um, I'd say, funny enough, NIP was one of my favorite organizations back in the day.
Hmm.
I looked up to them a lot because they did build a lot of championship mentality team, right? Like you
Yeah.
could see in the streams, like with Forest Get, right? Those guys, they had a passion to the game, right? They wanted to win. You could see that, and they inspired me a lot. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. And I had, as a kid, like you have no idea what's the amount of money they make, whatever, what to expect, right? But I said to myself, one of those days, I'm on those stages, right? Whether it's in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, but I'm in one of those stages. Came a bit earlier than I expected, to be honest. I thought that it will be a longer road, but I did manage, as you said, to be in an RMR, Pro League, stuff like that, which is prestigious, really prestigious tournaments, right?
Hmm.
But generally speaking, I mean, NIP kind of put the fire in me that inspired me to be a professional player. I watched NIP and Fnatic back at all the finals. You
Oh,
remember those, right?
everyone did, man.
And
Yeah.
envious, you remember those like
Yeah.
with Titan, like those like all. That's basically what put the fire in me, and I think that my goal was to be one of them, but I had no idea if it brings you any money, right?
Mm.
Livable money. I just said this is my dream, right? And I came forward to do it as a kid. I'm pretty sure. Don't take example from me, but skip school, done everything to be in CS. You know how it is, right? But
Yeah, I
um,
know.
I mean, I sacrificed a lot for CS, and I think it shows, right? From the people that know me and the people that are around me. But I think that generally speaking, I am getting there, and my goal is still my goal, right? They have been in a major, NIP has competed for the biggest titles. I want to compete in the biggest titles, whether it's with this team or another team. Obviously, this is an academy team, so we're gonna touch up on that later. But that's still my goal, right? My goal is to lift the
Yeah.
biggest trophies.
It's kind of like almost just shifting it from being like you're gonna be on the stage, but not necessarily the one playing. But you're still gonna be there, and
Yeah,
it's still like hard work to get there.
yeah,
So like yeah, and like you still play like I know like not loads, but like you still are playing at a high level ish, like in pugs if you consider that.
yeah.
And I think that's something I want to touch on about some coaches don't necessarily have that experience playing on lands, playing in teams, just even like pugging at a decent level. Um, do you think that is influential and is actually impactful in your coaching style with how you are able to draw on a lot of analysis? And I kind of want to talk about your coaching style at first. So, like, do you think your playing ability is influential on you?
Yes and no, because there are some plays that I find myself doing comfortably, right? Whether if I see them on a demo or whether if I invite them myself, right? And if I test them a couple of times and they work for me, there's no reason they're not going to work for a player of mine,
Yeah,
right? As well as some situations that I maybe have been in, especially now with an academy project that someone inexperienced hasn't been in, right?
yeah,
And that could also like obviously give me a faster answer, right? Rather than, I mean, newsflash, coaches don't have an answer for everything, right? Sometimes we need to go and research. And sometimes the research is already there because I've been in a situation similar to that. So yes, it does help, but obviously it depends on the style of coaching that you're doing and just a bunch of other things other than just playing or not playing. I'd say that you can be a great coach without playing one single match. During my EPL time and my RMR time, I think I barely played CS, like maybe like a couple of matches, like pugs a month, sorry, during playoff stuff like that. So influential, yes, some in some way, but does it have to be a great coach? Do you have to play pugs on a high level? No, I'd
not
say so.
necessarily pugs, but like land, like your
Oh
analytical
yeah,
mind. Yeah,
I mean yes, because obviously an experience helps because take someone that all the new coaches that didn't play in like stages or lands or whatever it is and don't know how it is mentally and physically for your body, right? um yes, they can prepare their team worse, right? In terms of the mental aspect at least. But it comes with experience, right? Because again, I have fortunately been able to play lands before in Israel and then
yeah,
lands before, um, basically everywhere in the world, right? And that's not play but coach, but it's still an experience that you have to have. I think, like for me, because I've been in kind of like a limited amount of lands, we can call it like that, in a higher level. But I think that every single LAN, day by day, I have improved. And if you ask any of my teammates, my past teammates, they can tell you that like day by day I got better in understanding how to prepare them for the match day, how to like control the time and how to make them calm and stuff like that, which is good. I mean, you keep learning and you can ask basically any coach in the world and they tell you that they learn day by day, right?
yeah. So just like yeah, looking more at your coaching style, when you were starting in, I think it was like 2018 when you were coaching
Yeah,
Vex, like that period,
yeah.
and like that general beginning, what was your coaching style then, and how has it developed to what it is now? And do you want to talk about what your coaching style is now as well?
Yeah, so I'd say obviously it developed a lot because I was an
Yeah,
18-year-old kid who came from nowhere and you know, in a team with Pith, Quicks, like kind of like decent names, right? Like for me, it was decent names back in the day.
yeah,
So I would say that I was more of like a yes man at that time. At that time, at the beginning, at least.
okay,
Then slowly started holding my ground, saying I want X, Y, Z, right? I want us to do this. I want us to do this. Start bringing my own ideas and my own, um, you know, my own little tweaks in the team. But again, it wasn't really a full my control team. It wasn't like the coaching that there is today that I'm doing, right? Well, I mean, like control in the way of that you are the one in charge. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the coach, right? The coach is always like the pinnacle of the team. He's the hierarchy, the highest in the hierarchy in the team, and then the IGL, and staff obviously above him and whatever it is. So then I'd say I was more of a yes man, more of like a guy that goes and researches Reddit for new plays, goes to watch demos for new plays, stuff. Like the good old like tier
I
three,
get what you
four
mean.
coach,
Yeah.
right? But
Nata
now
here, like, literally has like a Nata here video and sends you like, you're doing this.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Basically, like there was an Naruto tier back then, but basically the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Reddit was the way that you kind of use it too, right? They always bring out new smokes and new tricks and stuff. But now, obviously, I learned a lot from especially TC and JT, I'd say. And then when I started moving in ATK and we started like getting up the ranks, I obviously started talking to Chucky, who is Godsend 00 Nation coach now. I'm not sure what they called. Um, then I learned a lot from. I spoke to Daps a lot. Um, Basically, everyone that I could get information from, I tried to get right.
Yeah.
Anyone. And I think my coaching right now is way more efficient and more on a professional level. And I can call myself, like in the ways that I work, I can call myself a tier one coach, I think, just purely because the way that I work emulates very well a tier one team, which I think that's why NIP got me for this project to prepare the future stars for tier one.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, I mean, fair enough. And you spoke about it a little bit there of like the difference of being a coach in 2018 to now. What was it like being a coach in 2018, and how different is that position now?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, from a life aspect, right? I'm an 18-year-old kid,
Yeah.
17, 18. I have nothing to worry about, right? My mom shouts at me. That's all I have to worry about, right? Now, obviously, you have responsibility, which is a bit different. And coaching-wise, obviously, the game has changed and developed a lot. And also, as a coach, you need to know how to be a leader and how to get people behind you, right? Make people trust you and know how to talk to people, which is a long process, right? And one of the guys that helped me a lot is Clinton, who was our sport psychologist in ATK.
Mm.
He gave me a lot of tools on how to use my words properly, right, and how to approach people, and just be a professional. And there is a saying that I always say to my players, and I keep my check into it, and I always try to make sure that we are in this box. When we're in the server, when we're in a team, a unit of 6, we're business partners. When we're outside of the server, we can be the best friends, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Why do I say that? Is purely because people need to understand that they need to get feedback, they need to get criticism from their teammates, and it's not a feelings thing. Everybody tries to be better, right? And to me, it's very important, and I think that now I understand, let's say, the bigger picture of the team. And back in 2018, I couldn't lead a team. I'm telling you, like straight away, I couldn't. Now I feel like I could lead a team in a good way to victory, make people trust me. I mean, the technical stuff, in-game stuff, they matter, right? But what matters is that you're first of all a unit. That's
Yeah.
my vision.
I think that's become actually very apparent in the last year or two, especially recently with these new teams and people
Yeah.
realizing that getting on with each other actually matters a lot more than playing for like just because you're the best in the world.
Yeah.
And speaking of ATK, I think like, and it actually shows a lot of comparisons to your new roster where like you were building a squad, even though you had a five, you were building it.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about when you first joined with the South African team that were in South Africa and you were like obviously remote. You guys kind of won everything. Like if you look at stats, you literally just won everything. What was it like actually winning and just winning everything, but having no opportunities to do anything else?
It was COVID era, right?
Yeah, it
Back in
was
the
like
day. So
2020,
it's
21.
yeah. I mean, it was rough, right? We were promised to move overseas earlier. Shit happens, right? Basically,
Yeah.
what can you do? But generally, we stayed focused. We stayed uh, in our lane, and whatever we could, we did, right? We were giving our tools to use, and basically, how you were saying, I was building a team back then, right? I built a team in South Africa, and I've done that different to most of the teams in South Africa, which is similar now to more interview style. Make sure that they fit on a psychological level, mental level, right? That we're all like at least somewhat on the same page, hardworking people, kind of like understand the personality first before I understand the player, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say I've done that successfully. And we haven't lost a series. I think it was in a year and a half, not one series. We've won everything. We've probably to say like we've been the most dominant South African team ever, probably. But obviously that didn't like stray away from our goal, and our goal was to make a dent overseas,
Mm.
and I think we've done that right. But now building a team completely different, right? That's
Yeah.
like the second part of your question. It's completely different. I have an IP behind me, which is
Yeah.
a legendary org with so many resources that people can't even imagine, right? Um, and I think like the biggest selling point is the resources that NIP is going to use on this project, right? Um, I have the same way I've done interviews. I made sure that people are compatible with each other, that we have a proper roster under our hands, and that everyone trusts each other, whether it's from the organizational side, from Threat, Eric, up until the last player we got, right? So
Yeah.
it's important to me that there is that trust in the organization and the team, and everyone trusts each other.
Yeah, I actually want to get on eventually and speak about each player individually because I know like you selected like it wasn't like yeah you literally had like this player and then this player and I do want to speak about that
Yeah,
after kind of like maybe like the ATK stuff, because I think it's very important to see how you grew during this period. And you were saying like you know it was a bit difficult with COVID, but you eventually
yeah,
did move to NA. I think you were saying to me you were in Mexico and you had a team house.
yeah,
What was it actually like being in a house? Because it used to be a thing, but like
yeah.
every team had like this like gaming house. But you guys were in a house together. You were playing at NA. What was that like?
Uh, to say that it was all sunshine and rainbows, no. I mean,
Yeah.
no, right? We had our difficulties, but generally, I mean, it was a good experience for everyone. I think for me as a coach, I've been able to monitor everyone, which is great, right?
Mm,
So on a team perspective, and I still believe to this day, boot camps and something that you can always like check who's on your left, who's on your right, stuff like that. That's something that you can actually improve the most on because you're face to face with the person, and that's how you fix the most of the issues, right? But yeah, I mean, it was rough because you didn't have your alone time, right? Like away, you couldn't really like get away. Mexico, you don't really want to go outside, right? You had the rough times, you had the good times. Everybody dealt with that their way, but overall, I'd say it was a good experience. And I think that it has taught me a a big lesson, right? On first of all, how to live by my own, basically, right? With a group of people, how to social with people from different cultures, because we had a Swede, we had a Norwegian, we had a South African, like too many cultures, but obviously we made it work, right? And we've all been really good friends, and I think that for me, that's like one of the biggest lessons that I got, as well as again how to work in a more higher and better team environment, right? Because
mm.
we did aim very high in NA, and I mean you could see that, right, with the results that we had.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what were the goals when you moved to NA? Because you said like the goal was eventually to get to NA, and then when you got there, what were your plans?
Um, Obviously we've had some uncontrollables there, with two players that had to leave, homesick, whatever it was, right? It's natural, right? You can't expect someone to move countries, continents, and then be all good with it, right? But
Yeah.
it was an adjustment period, and me and Warren, the head of ATK, we have set ourselves a time limit of 6 months. Right, in 6 months we need to be stable on our feet. That's the first goal that we had. We got stable. We got a roster that we were happy with. Again, everybody trusted each other. We started working. In the beginning, we started losing, but we did set ourselves goals, which is qualifying to lands, um, being a dominant force in NA, right? At the beginning, qualifying to ECL, all those goals, which a lot of them we did hit, but a lot we also failed in a way of like a really small millisecond, right? And some uncontrollable things as well. But I'd say overall, like in terms of hitting our goals, we did hit a lot of our goals. We did make a dent. We've entered a high ranking on HLTV, high ranking on ESL. Um, we've played tier one events, right? There's more than that. We've been one game away from the major. I'm not too happy about that because I do think we could have made the major. Um, but
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there is always the next time, right?
Mm. Yeah, that was actually super unfortunate, the major. And
Yeah.
speaking about kind of that process, that was when you saw you brought in Swisher during like just before the arm, well, not just before, but like the
It was
same
like
year.
4 months, yeah, 4 months before that.
4 months, and I think it's something that you've spoken to me about. And it's very obvious he's a very key player, but something that you've spoken to me about him is the relationship you two have between each other. And I think there's a lot of parallels from what I'm looking at building him and what you're doing now. So do you want to talk to me about the relationship you had with Swisher and how you progressed him during your time at ATK and like these lands, and also like not just him, maybe some of the other players as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've got like raw players, raw talent from
Mm,
every piece of the world, right? In ATK, but Swisher obviously is the one that stood out. To say I've completely developed him, I don't think that I was the only one, because he's a very hard worker, and I think that he's a key success to any team. M80 now that they're doing super well, I think that he's a key success to them. Um, Obviously, I helped him whatever I could, right? We've done a lot of discussions together. We found a lot of fixes together. We have made sure that we are on the same page together, me and him, and always try to solve the issues that we had in the team together with him, whatever he
yeah,
saw, whatever he brought up. Um, the way that I helped him is basically being there, right, as a coach, being there and getting the answers. And he was always asking me, like, I think that when you have a player that always pushes forward, right, and gets new stuff for the team, and like basically does stuff by himself, like theory crafting himself,
yeah.
and coming to you and being like, "What do you think about this?" A lot of
Mm,
coaches and a lot of teams usually say, "No, no, we don't need that," right? And they kind of push it off to the side. You know what I mean? But when you have a player with that passion, yes, I want to see what you have. I want to use
yeah.
that. I want to try that, right? I want to put that fire in him to find more stuff and to think outside of the box. And I think the way that I helped him obviously was more the meta style, the EU meta style, and understanding that that passion that he has is not a bad thing for a team. It's actually a positive thing. And I turned it more into like him actually helping me and MisteM with mid rounds, and helping me and
Mm.
MisteM with even like theory sometimes, right? Um, but I mean, he did it gladly, and that's what he wanted to do. And that's, I think, when I gave him that freedom for the first time, he enjoyed it, and that's how he has been able to even grow his own mind even further than he had it.
Yeah. So that like idea of giving the players freedom to think themselves and giving them freedom to explore like how to like the theory craft and how to play Counter Strike, is that something you're trying to instill into the team you have now to give them that freedom and be like, look, like I want you to do stuff and I want you to bring it to me to improve yourself as well.
Yes, I mean, I always encourage people to find their own stuff. For me as a coach, I think it's easy that I hold someone's hand. Like, take you as an example. I'll be like, "Hey, Freddy, come, look, I'll show you something, right? I want you to do this, whatever it is, right?" And then,
Mm.
yes, you do it and it works and it's fine, but you don't completely understand it, right? You don't understand the why, the reasons behind it. What I believe in more in coaching, for me specifically, is that I will give tasks to the players to develop them, to make sure that I don't need to hold their hand. If I tell them to do something, they know exactly what they need to get.
Yeah.
If they notice that they lack something before I even say it, they already get it, right? Because I give them the tools to deal with stuff by their own, which I think that what builds you a complete player, and that's what builds you a tier one player at the end of the day.
Mm.
Uh, that's it, right? Like the tier
Yeah.
one players know how to fix their own issues, and that's what you need to do.
I actually, yeah, no, that makes like a lot of sense, and that's exactly how you'd want to build an individual. And so speaking about kind of like the RMRs and the Pro League appearance you had in very short concessions, kind of like 5 months. It was like between the year break.
Yep.
Obviously, there's stuff we can talk about like the team and how the individuals progressed, but how did you progress? Because I know looking at like only Liquipedia, you do have some experience on LAN as a coach with like the international side with the Israeli team. But as a coach who then went through these two tier one lands, what were your takeaways from those specific events?
Um, I'd say it was, let's say, one big takeaway is professionalism,
Mm,
right? Um, how to be a professional, be around professionals, and basically get information from professionals. To me, one of the most important things is you don't need to have an ego. All the tier one players, coaches, everyone, they're good guys. If you come to them, if you talk to them, even if you don't know them, they'll open up. You'll ask them questions, they'll give you answers, right? That's
yeah.
simple as that. And I used my appearances in those events to, other than my friends, right, in different teams, to actually like just try and ask and get a different perspective from everyone.
Mm,
And I think that what helped me the most, because let's say I've hit a roadblock. One match we lost because of XYZ, or something happened in the morning. I need to find a fix, right? I didn't have the answer. What did I go do? I went to the lobby. I knocked on someone's door. I messaged someone, come meet me, have a chat. Someone experienced. They gave me basically a solution. I go to the team. I give the solution. Everyone is happy, right? I learned. They learned. We're happy, right? Everything is fixed.
Yeah.
So I mean, I use that to develop myself, right? And I will keep using it. Like, even like I said, my goal would be to lift the biggest trophies. Even after I lift those biggest trophies, I will still want to learn. There's no time that you can stop and just sit and be comfortable and content with where you are. You always need to move forward, and you always need to basically bring your ego down and open your mind. Because even
Mm.
I'll take anyone as an example, right? I'm in a tier one team. I'm in phase right now, the best team, right? And let's say a top 50 team comes to me and they play really good against me. I'll go and ask, right? There's something I liked. I'll go and ask, why did you do this? Like, I'll try to understand, right? And I think you can learn from everyone. There is no level way that you. It's everyone, right? Even like playing with level nines, like who the fuck knows what they can do, right? Like maybe they ever play like a sick player, you'll be like, oh, where did you see this, right?
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you can learn from everyone, and I think my biggest takeaway from those events was my self development and my professionalism that improved a lot, and I think thanks to exactly what I said now, just being open to conversations.
That's actually a very good lesson for kind of everything, to be honest. Like not
Yeah,
just CS or coaching. And I think it's really interesting with like the lower level teams because I think, in my opinion, winning advanced is harder than winning a major. And like you see all these advanced teams doing like the craziest things. And I
yeah,
think it's like they're like some of them are like a top 150 teams, but you learn stuff like the util sets, how they do stuff. That's actually kind of where you learn the most because it's just
yeah,
so different. Um, and speaking about Pro League, this is something that you spoke to me, and you were saying how people underestimated you guys and
yeah.
kind of slept on you and were thinking that nouns should have qualified instead of you guys. Why do you think coming to the like close of the ATK chapter, why do you think people were sleeping on you?
I think that obviously we were an NA team, but we weren't an NA team, right? We didn't have the majority of
Mostly,
NA.
mostly EU, to be honest.
Yeah, mostly EU, right? I mean, if you take South Africa, whatever it is, but generally mostly EU. So I think obviously from the NA perspective, now's got more support, which is understandable. ATK is a smaller org as well. And yeah, I mean, the names that we had, like honestly, like if you look back at the time, like they're not intimidating at all, right? Like Bowden, what did he do? He played for Little Mix, MisteM, nobody heard of him. Like those type of players. Swisher, Swisher was just an NA, right? He played Pro League
Yeah.
with Ben Bears, but got out like last every single time. So obviously you wouldn't be intimidated, even me, right? You wouldn't be intimidated. But at the end of the day, like when we started playing and our first match against Ants, which could have gone either way. I remember that Daicha P to 50 round day by day, night by night. Um, but yeah, I mean, it could have gotten either way, and we could have won 2-1. They won 2-1 at the end of the day. But I mean, I think that opened up a lot of eyes on us, right? And Snappy told me that, and Nerds told me that after the match. They said that they didn't expect what they saw.
Hmm.
They expected a way easier route, and they didn't expect to sweat at all. Which when a leader like Snappy, which I value a lot,
Yeah.
and a friend of mine, an Israeli nerds, come to me and say, Guys, you have surprised us, right? Like you have done something that we didn't even remotely thought is possible from you guys. And you
Hmm.
played really, really good team Counter Strike, not individual Counter Strike. Really good team Counter Strike, and you had a really good plan. And for me as a coach to hear like all the teamwork stuff that they were good, I was pleasantly surprised, and obviously that gave me a push to even like, okay, tomorrow's Liquid. I work harder. I didn't go to sleep that day. I went to sleep like late at night, made sure we fixed all of our mistakes. Next day again, Liquid beat us, but we did give a good fight, right? Same thing, like when we played Astralis, we should have beaten them. I remember that match again, the 5v3. Ooh, the buzz 5-7. We can talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, like it's Astralis, and we're playing Astralis, and we were
You
basically an
pushed them.
inch away from beating them, right? So to me, obviously, it was a success because everybody we gained respect towards us. Everybody against like to every individual that we had. Every individual in the team got respect, which I think is a success for the event. You go to a tier one event, you get respect from tier one players. That's what you get there, right? Um,
Mm.
I mean, for me, I think that not only myself but the players, everybody deserves their credit in EPL and the RMR. Those two events we made a dent, exactly what we wanted to make.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what you want. Like, you want to walk away and be like, okay, we've actually done something. And I feel like every time you've had the opportunity, yes, maybe you didn't qualify for the major, but you made a dent. Yes, you didn't win a game at Pro League, but you made a dent and made everyone sweat and surprise. But unfortunately, the ATK organization closed doors, and you were maybe left in the dark a little bit. What was it? What was it like actually, just being out of ATK for so long, and where were you wanting to take yourself next? Before you maybe got the offer from NIP.
Um, Basically, I right after everything happened, we'll keep it disclosed. We won't open it. But after
Fair
everything
enough.
happened with ATK, and we basically moved forward, I first of all wanted a vacation. Right, that was my first thing. Um, the first thing that came to my mind is because I haven't had a proper vacation since 2018, and I needed it for myself. I needed it to reset and recoup and rethink about all the options. Meanwhile, the offers were still coming, right, and there were still projects coming and falling and whatever it is. Had a lot of discussions, a lot of meetings, and a lot of you came that close, right? Um, but what was important for me is that when I found a home, I find a home that, from the staff and organization point of view, view the things the same way that I view it, and give me the tools that I need to succeed.
Yeah.
And once NIP came on board, first of all, like I said, like they're the organization that kind of like got me into professional Counter Strike, right? Which is funny, right? It's kind of like a surreal moment, but either way, like they came to me, I explained my vision, they explained their vision. We were so aligned in everything that we thought, like basically from Eric, from Hisham, from every staff member to myself, we were very aligned in our goals and very aligned from the vision that we see for the team, for the organization. How do we help everyone, right, in the organization, not just the team? And I think it was just a no-brainer for me. Like as soon
Mm.
as I understood that we view the same views, we have the same principles. We agree with basically everything. We show a united front together, which probably means less issues in the future, right?
Yeah.
I think it was a no-brainer for me. Like I basically jumped on the opportunity, and every other discussion or org that I had talks with at the time, just closed the doors. I'm going with NIP. That was like basically a no-brainer for me.
And that's really good to hear. And you were talking about that vision. Like we can see what your vision is, but what's the vision behind building this young ninja squad?
So when NIP came to me with an academy project, right? You think an academy project, you think like Apex Rebels, Mouse and ZXT right now, right? They're not doing much. They're playing, they're showing themselves, they're CCT sometimes here and there, whatever it is. You think an academy project, cool, but I don't think it's just an academy project, right? For me, an academy project is a project that eventually either is too good that you get moved up or get pieces moved up to the main team, or sell players to tier one, basically develop players, exactly what I
Mm.
said, right? I don't believe that an academy project is just you have the main team and you have academy team. I
Yeah.
believe that it's a whole group, right? This and this is together, because at the end of the day, they need to merge, right? That's the goal. And NIP saw a very similar vision to me, right? They said we want to develop players. Like that's the main goal for the team. The main goal isn't to win anything. Like me or NIP, we don't care if we win a CCT, lose a CCT. Like if we, I'll give the best example. Threat said it. Like if we win a CCT because one of our players dropped 50 every match, but we played shit as a team, it doesn't matter for us, right? We don't view it like that. For us, it's a fail. What's a success is if we reach a semifinal, but we all play at a super high level as a team, right? And we lose to the better team. That's a success for us, right? Because we
Mm.
can learn from that, not just because someone did an amazing performance, right? And at the end of the day, we like we say in NIP, we don't want gamers, we want athletes. We want to develop athletes, um, wherever it is. So I mean, the core that we have now, maybe in 6 months, like you said, it won't be the same core, but the vision that we have is very similar. we want to develop athletes that at the end of the day will either get moved up to the main team or get sold elsewhere to another tier one team. And with all of like the talks behind it, we are not going to hold anyone back. So if someone wants to leave, obviously there is the contractual stuff and whatever it is, but we are not going to hold anyone back, and that's our main goal. We want to develop people, get them into a comfortable either new home or main team, like I said, and do whatever we can to make the transfer. So I mean, for me, that's my goal, and also like as a coach, right? My goal is to develop myself enough so I can be that good that I can move up to the main team.
Damn, yeah, I mean that's a pretty. It's very interesting seeing the mentality behind academy teams. I think some teams have done it really well, and some teams just kind of haven't, to be honest.
Mhm.
And
Malta has
so
done an amazing job. Just
yeah,
go
Astralis
to
comes to mind. They've
yeah,
like they've obviously had their like players going up and then also down, which I think is really interesting.
yeah.
And so this is a very different opportunity for you. So like what is it like maybe like building this team and starting it from scratch, and having these kind of like different, yeah, like how do you prepare yourself with the idea that in like 6 months it's going to be a different roster potentially because you're doing well?
So just so you know, not not even if we're doing well, we have a rule. It will be public, basically, right? Every 3 months, me and Threat, the GM, we are going to sit down, and we are going to ask a simple question with the roster, right? I think 3 months is a fair amount of time. We're going to go player by player and ask, is that player does that player has the potential to be in tier one?
Mm,
Because yes, he might be good, right? But he might not be good enough for tier one. He might be just good enough for our like our team as a role player, right? Not as a tier one player. Which I think is okay, right? To stay in the tier two, three level and be good.
yeah.
But again, we want the tier one players. We want them in our team. We want them to go through us, right? And we want to give the tools to become tier one. If you're just decent for tier two,
Mm,
three, this is not the place for you, right? And then we're going to move on. Um, but yeah, I mean that's something public, and I think I don't think, but every player knows it, and it's healthy competition, right? Because they always have to keep going forward. And I think we
yeah.
got a good group of guys right now. But again, who knows who might surprise me to the better or to the worse, right? Um, but we are going to ask that question. Hopefully, it will only be changes from what you said, from them being too good. But again, the changes could be just because they're not good enough for tier one, which I think is a very interesting point for us in this academy project, because most of the academy projects believe in development, whatever it is, how long it takes, whatever. No, we want those tier one players, right? And if someone is not
Okay.
fitting to be a tier one player, he's not going to be here. And I mean, everybody strives towards that. They just need to use the resources that we give them, use us, show the progress, and eventually they will either get to tier one or get moved up to our tier one team, right?
Okay. So there's almost a mentality of like it doesn't matter how the team's doing. You could lose 10 games in a row, but if you see there's like this is actually going well, so what, we lost 10 games. Is that almost like how the
Yeah.
team looks at it?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously we will look at a loss like everything.
Mm,
We basically learn, right, from the losses. And if we lost 10 games against good opponents, which could be a thing, right, 10 in a row,
maybe.
but but we as a team we discuss it in a good fashion. We find
Mm.
solutions and we keep improving. That's a win, right? That's a win in my books, because as soon as you've lost those 10 games, there will be a rough patch. You lost those 10 games. You didn't let the losses frustrate you too much. You've kept moving forward. That
Mm.
shows me a mentality of a tier one player.
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. And so looking towards the end, I honestly want to go through each individual player because you said you've built this roster, so there's going to be something behind every player, I
Yeah,
believe. Starting with the IGL, you've got MisteM. He's played with you before in ATK. He's one of the older people in the squad alongside Blue Phoenix. Why him as the IGL? And also, if you're comfortable, what other people were you looking at, and why did like MisteM maybe like what does he show that you wanted?
yeah. I mean, I've looked at a couple of people. Obviously, I still just an FYI. I always have a list that I'm of like a scouting list of players
Yeah.
in case again those 3 months thing don't work or they get moved up or moved somewhere else, just so I have an immediate replacement. or immediate potential replacement, right? But MisteM, I think like before I even looked at anyone else, it was kind of like a no-brainer, right? I called him and I was like, look, I got this offer. There is this opportunity. I want you with me. Why? I
Okay.
think it makes the most sense. We've worked together. We've gotten a team that again no one expected to heights that no one expected, right? We know how to work with each other, and when you build a team and you already have a very strong foundation of a coach and an IGL that we worked together for 3 years, it's a lot of time. I think it's kind of like a no-brainer to just get us.
Yeah.
We know our minds, we know how we work together, and we know it works. And NIP saw it works, right? Just off of results, it's easy to see that. And NIP and myself, we both agree that this is kind of like the choice that there there's no even thinking of, right? This is the right choice, right? So I think like even though I did have other names, the the only name that I tried to push for the hardest was MisteM, just because I thought it will give me a very strong base for the team and the development,
Okay.
right?
So that kind of like decisive decision, did you have that with anyone else?
Um, yes, I've had it with one more player. It was Maxster.
Yeah.
Um, I know Maxter for a while. I laid my eyes on him back in Romania 2 years ago, I believe, in ISF when I was there. He was with Young Ninjas or 1 year ago. I don't remember exactly. But I laid my eyes on him, and ever since I kind of like followed him, I've seen that he has like that star potential, right? But he never really got that freedom to do anything on the teams that he played, right? He always had Nilo, Adamy, whatever, like
Hmm.
better stars, right? That they got the positions that he wanted. He did the best for the team. His mentality was always like, I'm gonna do whatever the team needs me to do. But he never got that freedom that he wants. And when I told NIP, don't release him, I want him. I want you to extend his contract. I want him in our project, right? I basically said it to NIP. I believe in this guy, and I think with the right tools that I'm gonna give him, he's gonna shine more than he shined up until now, which he played good up
Okay.
until now. Um, no brainer for me again, right? Star player Max. I think he's insane, and he'll show the world exactly what he's made of. Um, but again, I mean, he also strives for tier one. He played with NIP, whatever, like with the main roster and stuff like that. And I think like obviously just having me, MisteM, and Maxter with experience, you can call it experience, right? He played tier one events. MisteM and myself, we play tier one events. We have that experience. It's already again a good fundamental core to lead a team and lead more inexperienced players, right? Especially when the IGL and the coach already have a very similar mindset. We know each other very, very well, and we're going to work in the same way that we know each other, right? So I think it was two no-brainer choices for myself, and I do believe that Maxter is going to be heard worldwide very, very, very soon, like as a hot name, uh, with the tools that we are going to give him in Young Ninjas.
Okay, that's very interesting. And looking at because I think so he's being moved to like star player as you said, but you
Yep,
also have another star player in the form of Jacob from the Prodigy Sweden, and
yep,
he's come out of nowhere for me on my radar. Like just all of a sudden, him and TVS like 1.3 ratings, just casually dropping them on like everyone.
yep.
He's a star player, and he was a star player in Prodigies. How is he going to be integrated with Maxter? And yeah, like why him basically?
So obviously there was no need to keep a Swedish core. I didn't get
Yeah.
like a thing from an IP that they want a Swedish core or a Swedish flag, but it just happened, right? But Jacob was basically one of our last pieces that we got, but I think that I wanted him a lot because he is a young kid, 18. Everybody can see that he has potential, right? We don't need to even like say it too much. Everybody sees that the guy has potential and the guy can grow into like a higher level. Um, the guy has never been in a professional environment. We need to remember that this is his first professional environment, and I think if he's taking it the right way, he's going to grow a lot. How he's going to be integrated with Max? It's going to be two heavy shooters, right? You have enough space for both of them. We're going to give enough space for both of them. We have a heavy shooting team, either way, everyone in the team. But
Mm.
those two are going to basically some maps Max likes to play, let's say the second star position roles, and then some maps Jacob likes to play the second star position roles. So it actually worked very, very
Okay,
well.
yeah.
And I think like there's only either one or two maps that Jacob has different positions, but also positions that he kind of wanted to try.
Okay. Oh, so that works really well. And for your last Swede, someone who I think being maybe quite honest, he's someone I've known for a while because he played in the
Yeah,
UK scene. Silence Your Orpa, like he played for 7 a.m. For like a year, I think it was, give or take. Not gonna lie, roster
yeah,
tanked. Like they had a backing from an org, they had boot camp. They like they didn't really do a huge amount. I think it was quite disappointing, and
yeah.
his stats weren't that
Not
great.
great. Yeah,
How did you come onto him in the first place? Like, I know he played with NIP at the Svenska Cup, so I don't know if there was something maybe like was that before or after he was a part of the
no, he already
project.
signed. He
So
already
he
signed.
so okay, so that makes sense. But yeah, then that makes the question even more like where did he come from and why him as the AWP? Because there are other people like TVS in
Yeah.
Sweden who was posting just insane stats.
Yeah, so I think I'm looking at it as a team first of all, right? And
Yes.
as individuals. The guy again is very very young, right? Um, and in terms of the community, I've heard only good stuff about the guy, right? I've heard that he's a hard worker. I've heard that he hits the easy shots, which is very very difficult to come across in opping those days, right? Um, and obviously the guy is very eager to learn, right? He just needs to open up and learn more. He wants that. He is listening,
Yeah.
and I believe that for the pieces that we have a very aggressive rifle stack basically that we have, right? I think that an Alper who hits the easy shots, like I said,
Hmm.
hits the right rotations, supports well. This is exactly what we need for the team and for the world, right? You have a lot of those flashy oppers, but where's the Vi style oppers?
The ones who hit the shots.
The ones who hit the shots, the ones that close the deal. You don't have many of those. You have the flashy ones, but what about those, right? Because Device is still looking as well. You're looking at him as one of the best players or the operators in the
Mm.
world, right? In Counter Strike, but you don't have more than those players, right? More of them, like let's say Zaiwu, Simple. They are flashy operators. But what about team operators? And I believe that he can be a very, very good team operator when we finish our development with him. Hopefully, he can be a complete operator in the way that I view it, and I believe that this kid has a very, very, very long way to go, and he can reach really, really high notes for his career.
Yeah, and something to note is that Blue Phoenix is the final player 23, MisteM's
Yeah,
22. Maximum Science and Jacob are 18, 18, and 19. Very, very young people.
yeah,
So I think that is also like a key point to understand of like there is obviously like building into them as
yeah,
humans and individuals growing to adults. And similar for I don't know if maybe similar, but like for Blue Phoenix, your final member, the anchor of the team, I guess.
yeah,
23, played in Israel, hasn't really done much internationally.
yeah.
And similar to maybe like you to Jacob of not being in that professional system. Why Blue Phoenix and how? Yeah, like why? Yeah, why?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a shocker, right? But when me and
It
Threat,
was a shock.
yeah, when me and Threat first started talking about building this team and what individuals we can get, I think that it's kind of like smart because the Israeli market was very hot, right? And there's a lot of talent coming from Israel right now. And obviously, I'm from Israel, so I know that the talent that could potentially be up there, right? There was a couple of obviously thoughts that I had, different players in mind. A lot of interviews and things took place and discussions internally, externally with NIP with the players. Um, Generally, we went with Blue Phoenix just purely like right now he fits the roles better. He is older than, like you said, maxster, jocab, and silence, but he's still young in the CS world. We can call it like that, right? He hasn't done much, like you said. Um, and since there's no We Play Academy, you can go for a bit older guys, right? Just not too old, because it
Yeah,
is an academy. But I believe that Blue Phoenix, he has a bright future. He's a really really hard worker, and when he wants to get something, he's getting it done, which is something I value a lot in a player. I think that in terms of roles, they like if there was different roles, we could have gotten a different Israeli player, but um, he surprised us a lot with his mentality, with his ability to learn and to develop, especially with his time in Nom Gaming. I only heard good things about his development, right? Um, and the bad stuff that he fixes and fixed, right? So I think that the guy grows as a player, grows as a person, and you can see that he wants it. Like he actually wants it. He's hungry for it, even though he's older. I think it doesn't stop him, right?
Yeah.
Skill wise, he's insane. I think like skill wise, he will surprise everyone when they see him play more tournaments. But for me, just a player that is hybrid like him, he can do it all. He can anchor, even though he hasn't done that. He has just been in IGL, so like in home gaming, he can do that. I can count on him to be a star player if needed, right? If, for example, someone dies, he can take up and basically, take up the responsibility of the dead star player, for example, right? Um, I know that he's a very hybrid guy. Like as a rifler, he can do every
Mm.
role, and
Yeah.
I think that the role that he will be the best in is the role that he is able to focus more on himself, which is anchoring. And I told him that, and we came into an agreement. He's going to anchor, um, and I do think that he will, if he develops properly, he will be one of the best anchors in the world.
That and speaking about Israeli players coming into spotlight, and Bluefin is, I guess, maybe like the newest person who's come into like European Counter Strike.
Yep,
Coming to a closed interview because I think that's wrapped up about us talking about NIP.
yep.
What are like? Do you think we'll be seeing any more players come out of Israel in the next year or two? Because it does really feel like the whole scene has progressed.
Yes, I do think so. I mean, there's always like talent that's moving up. And I think even like names like Mestel, for example, right? Shushan, who's old, but I mean, still hasn't done much. But I do still believe that there are players that you can see basically integrated into European Counter Strike and making like a dent, right? Making themselves known, right? You have Heavy God who's posting insane numbers with Endpoint right now, and as we know, Endpoint is an Israeli machine basically, right? They're developing every Israeli, right? Um, so I mean, who knows? Maybe Heavy God one day gets sold to a tier one org, and then they get another Israeli, and then he gets sold to another org, and they get another Israeli. So I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that it's just about the people though in Israel, and it's about the mentality that we have because it's very difficult to make it out of here to be pro. And I think that we, including me, we have made so many sacrifices to be good and to learn and everything, right? So I do think like as soon as we have some players that have potential, they just need to change their mentality a bit. It happens, right? Kids being kids, but like I said, as soon as they started they starting hitting the green lights, that's when I think you will see more and more and more Israelis come out.
Yeah, and speaking about like the sacrifice and stuff, do you actually get much like support from other Israeli players?
Yeah, I mean, I think every Israeli guy has said that in an interview or something. We all the tier one Israelis as well as like
Yeah.
the lower tiers, whatever it is, we're all good friends, right? We're meeting uh, on a monthly basis. I want to say sometimes it takes longer, sometimes less, but maybe even like sometimes it happens on a weekly basis. But
Mm.
we meet each other in real life. We chat. We're good friends outside. We support each other, right? We're rivals. I played Nerds in his debut on Ents, right?
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, like after that, we sat down on a beer. We had a chat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are friends, right? That's I think that's the most important part, and we are pushing each other to be better. I'm looking at Flamesy, and I'm looking at Spinks, and I'm looking at Nerds, and I'm looking at Heavy God, and I'm looking at every single Israeli as an inspiration and as a healthy competition, right? I want to be better than them, and I want to prove to them that I'm better than them. But they want to prove to me that they're better than me. So it's just a healthy competition all
Mm.
around. We're really good friends, supporting each other in every move, and most of the roster moves that being happening as well. Like we are kind of like asking each other for opinions. Like let's say I was in the free agency, I was like, okay, I have those offers. What should I go for? Like, well, what do you think? Like, what
Yeah.
would you rank it? And we're very open with each other, which is good, and we support each other's decisions, which is I think important overall. And the scene is so small that you just need to support everyone, right?
Mm. Exactly. And like it's really valuable to have that support network, I think. And
Yeah.
finally, wrapping it up, something people have spoken about a lot. All the Israelis, I think, have said about it. Super team, Israeli super team at one stage. Is this something that you want to be a part of?
I mean, currently there is another Israeli coach, Equix, but I'd say that in terms of level wise, I love the guy Shai. By the way, shout out to him. He's been always like a pinnacle in the Israeli scene. But I think like if something comes down to that, and coaching is a bit different because I might be elsewhere. Who knows, right? Like even
Yeah,
at
who
40 years
knows?
old, you can still coach a tier one team and be in the highest levels. But
That is true. Yeah.
if something comes up, down the line after everybody has lifted the biggest trophies and we want to do an eternal fire kind of thing, I mean, the future is there, right? Like
Yeah.
the script is written. It's all about like when, why, and it has to just be the right time, right?
Yeah.
It literally has to be the right time. But I don't see it happening anytime in the near
No.
future. It's gonna happen like years down the line, like
Mm.
literally years down the line.
Yeah, that you have like a walking stick being like, we're making it to a major. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I like one day I do really want to see it. I think it'll be really good fun.
yeah.
But with that, thank you so much and congratulations on your new opportunity at
Thank you.
NIP Academy. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see not only what the players can do, but also you. And I'm gonna be really interested to see like what shift up there is and like who we might see being put into the tier one system. And without further ado, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for everyone to listening another episode. And we will see you next time for another episode on the INSITE channel. See you next time.